It's a pleasure to welcome to the show University of Virginia goalie, freshman Matt Nunes. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Excited to do this.
Yeah, well, thank you for making this happen. I always like to hear the story of your very first save, the very first time you jumped into goal. And you're not that old, so I'm going to assume that you remember it.
So the first time I ever played goalie was I was actually fortunate enough to make the 5th and 6th grade B team at the Woodlands in 3rd grade, but I was playing D-pole. Our goalie forgot his cup, and then I was the youngest kid and also the kid who was wearing a cup. So I got thrown in cage, and ever since then, kind of started playing goalie.
In that scenario, I've enacted the goalie cup rule, which is if the goalie forgets his cup, he gets to steal anybody's cup. But hey, you got thrown in there, and I guess the rest is history. How did you end up playing lacrosse coming out of Texas? Huge football state, right? Like, how did you wind up in this sport?
So I started playing football at the age of 5, and then was looking for another sport to do alongside football in the spring. Started with baseball, and baseball was going a little slow. And then my dad is the head of Parks and Recreation in the Woodlands, so he knows about all the sports that are going on. And then him and my mother both went to Springfield College, so they knew about lacrosse. And then they saw it, and they just threw me in in the spring, and ever since then it's kind of hit.
That's cool. So what was it about goalie that you liked so much when you got thrown in at that early age?
Probably right away wasn't the biggest fan, just because you have a lacrosse ball flying straight at you. But I mean, it's just the overall, like, the guys coming to get you at the end of the game, and just realizing how important each save is something that's drawn me to goalie.
Yeah, which is something I encourage coaches to instill. Like, you've got to instill that culture in your youth teams of, like, go get the goalie, like, respect the goalie, like, go nuts when the goalie makes a save, because it is tough. And if we don't get that love, like, guess what? Like, all of a sudden you're going to have goalies quitting left and right because it's a tough position. How'd you then go about learning how to make saves?
It really all goes back to Doug Sarant. He was kind of the first goalie coach I've ever had, and I still go to him. I went to him this past winter break, and he is a big fundamental guy. And I actually met him at my sister's practice one day when he was filling in for the 7th, 8th grade team, and he saw me throwing around with a goalie stick. He gave my mom his phone number, and ever since then, it's kind of been Doug Sarant was really the first guy who's taught me how to play goalie.
Nice. So he broke down the fundamentals for you. Like, this is how you stand. This is the positioning. This is the save movement, all that good stuff.
I mean, the whole 9 yards, everything, everything from the base. He built the bottom of the pyramid for sure.
Yeah. Love it. What about other, like, college goalies or pro goalies? Has any prominent goalie come out of Texas besides you?
I mean, actually, I think Texas has to be one. Goalies has to be one of the better positions to come out of the state of Texas. You have Luke Milliken, who's played at UNC and is now at Jacksonville, I believe. Yeah. Dan Morris, who was the national championship goalie. Then you have coaches who are in the state, like Chris Saran, who played at Syracuse. And you also have a lot of other goalies. I mean, another goalie out of my high school, Gunnar Lakowski, who was at St. Leo's, and now he's at Mount St. Mary's. So I think goalies out of Texas have actually done pretty well. I mean, Colby Canese at Penn State, who was a 4-year starter also.
Love it. I had Dan on the show. He's an awesome guy. Awesome, man. So everyone's got kind of a little bit of a different style when it comes to playing goalie. Like, how would you describe, your style?
I would try to say that it's more of I try to use my athleticism in cage, especially on those, and like when the ball comes inside, just rely on my athleticism and probably quicker hands. Then I also like to get the ball up and out, push transition. I mean, that was one of the things that kind of brought me towards Virginia was Coach Tiffany's, like, his emphasis on getting the ball up and out.
Yeah. And then in terms of, like, stance, like what, like wider base, kind of narrow, high arc, low arc, what are you going with these days?
It's actually, I've been working on the arc, been playing around with it a little bit more, just because college shooters can bring the ball, put the ball in the corner. So I've been messing around with low and high arc. So that'll be something I keep working on. And then what was the second part on that?
Just the stance.
Stance, I'd probably say it's more like a linebacker stance because I grew up playing football, grew up playing basketball. So that's
Yeah.
more of like a natural stance I'm more comfortable in. It's just kind of feet are like shoulder width or just a little bit wider.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Love it. What about, are there other elements that like basketball specifically brought to your game? Cause I think that like there's this, in basketball, you do jump stops, like jump stops, kind of a huge movement, and I feel like when you're moving on the arc and kind of rebalancing your weight, it's kind of like you're taking elements of basketball and bringing it into your goalie game. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I think basketball has a huge. I mean, basketball and lacrosse just have a lot of crossovers, no matter what position. And
Yeah.
I was always a taller kid growing up, so I would play like a lot of posts. I think that helps with the footwork, even when the ball's behind, and just being fluent with your footwork when the ball gets thrown over your shoulder, just pivoting, turning, opening up your hips. Then
Yeah.
also, I think football. I mean, enough to play quarterback in 8th grade. And when you clear the ball, it's almost like you're the quarterback of the clear, and you have to read what they're giving you, because when you clear the ball, you're man up. Like, it really shouldn't be overall challenging. There's always one person that's open. So I
Right.
think I like having that quarterback just kind of scanning the field is something that's been a big crossover for me.
Yeah, it is a football play. It's a football play. Like you're the quarterback, right? And you're kind of just reading the play. That is interesting. Yeah. Cool. And so at a certain point, I guess like in high school, you know, you start to get some looks, or like how did your recruiting process work, and why did you end up going to Virginia?
I mean, a lot of it has to start with Iron Horse and West Coast Stars, and also my high school coach, Keith Tinnell.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was my first ever coach I had, and he also just kept improving my skills. And then West Coast Stars and Iron Horse, just getting myself out into like in the front top tournaments, like the NLF tournaments, and also getting me in events like Maverick Showtime. Then also making the Under Armour team was a big aspect. How it landed at Virginia was I went on like 5 visits, 2 in the summer to the service academies, and then 3 in the fall. Then I picked Virginia just because it was the best fit for myself. I thought it's the total package. I mean, UVA academics has to be one of the top institutions in the country. Then lacrosse, they won the national championship that year I was getting recruited.
Yeah.
And then also just like the culture that Coach Tiffany's put in when I came on my official, or when I took my official visit, it was just where I felt most at home. I got along with the guys the best. And then also just like the atmosphere around UVA. I mean, they have the football. I had more of like a Southern feel, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
more like, I'm not saying it's an SEC type of school, but it was just more, I felt more at home. They had the bigger time football, big time basketball, like the other sports. And it's just something I was looking into. And also it was like a bigger campus feel. I didn't want to go to a school that was smaller than my high school. So my high
Yeah.
school was 4,000 kids big. So,
Right.
yeah.
What would be your advice to young goalies who are going through the recruiting process right now?
I mean, it's going to sound very cliche, but I would just say like keep working on like at yourself, keep improving your like fundamentals, and keep improving yourself in goalie terms and academically,
Mm-hmm.
because the right school is going to come get you at the right moment. If you worry about your recruitment too much, I think it's going to take away from your game.
Yeah. Great advice. Great advice. The the rankings of the new recruits come out, and I think you're like top 5 or maybe top 3, but the number 1 goalie. And I'm curious, like for you, does that drive you? Do you feel extra pressure? Like what does that do when that report comes out for you?
I mean, it's for sure a great honor. There's tons of other great goalies in my class. I mean, Jack's a great one. Andy's great. Michael Scharfenberger, Jack Webb is unreal. And it's a great honor to be at the top of that list, but it also provides pressure. But I mean, pressure is a privilege, and the privilege is I have to keep working hard. There's guys gunning for me, but I'm also gunning for the guys ahead of me, trying to keep that top spot.
Love it. It's a privilege. It is. Yeah. I talk about that quite a bit on the show. It's like, you can't have this opportunity without having that pressure. Like they go kind of hand in hand. So a lot of people want the opportunities and they want all this potential, but then they complain about the pressure. It doesn't work that way. Like they're a package deal, and you got to have both. And so embrace it. So I love that attitude. You mentioned like work. I got to keep working hard. Got to keep working hard. What does that look like for you these days? Is that weight room? Is that shots? Is that drills? How are you becoming a better goalie?
I mean, it's just overall improving athleticism. I'm a big jump rope guy. Then just keep taking top tier shots. Like
Yeah.
I always, even freshman year, freshman year in high school, I'd always try to go shoot with the older guys and on my high school team, and even here, trying to shoot with the best players like Evan Zinn, Griffin Schutz, Connor Schellenberger, like trying to text those guys, get those guys out on the field so they can just tear me up. But I know when I get scored on, it's like I'm getting better. I'm getting better because these guys are scoring. Like you're not getting better if you're making every single save when you go shoot. Like that's not the point of going to go take those extra reps. It's the point is try to face those top shooters. And it's like, all right, once I start saving their shots, who's the next guy I can go get to shoot on me and score on me?
Yeah. Love it. Yeah. Always searching for the best top talent to shoot on you. I say that quite a bit. Like a lot of goalies ask me, should I play up? Right. Or play with some older kids. And yeah, as long as it's safe, right? Like as long as you're not 8 years old playing, college guys, but if you can see top level shots, yeah, by all means, go for it.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love it. So, you mentioned when you get to college or you start practicing with these guys. I think you guys just started your spring practices, but you did a whole fall ball. The shots, the speed of the game, probably a lot quicker, right? Like, how did you go about adjusting to that? And did your goalie game change at all?
Yeah, so I mean, the shots, I mean, everything is moving so much faster. I was also super fortunate enough to have Coach Turner here, who played goalie here at UVA, and also great upperclassmen like Miles Thompson and David Roselle. They kind of mentor me and take me through like this drill's tough on goalies. Like we're man down. Like the difference between high school and college is like if they have a 10-yard step down, like that's a great shot. Like that's a phenomenal shot. In high school, it's like, all right, like I probably can save that 10-yard step down because I'm more talented than the other kid.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the goalie game. I think we've experimented a lot in the fall with Coach Turner, and it's been really like trying to keep those hands up high, using my feet a little bit more, but just a lot of small tweaks have been really good for me.
Yeah. How is Coach Kip Turner as a coach? I've had him on the show. Awesome guy, awesome goalie. Like you said, UVA star. He had one of the most unique stances I've ever seen. Have you seen his stance?
Yes.
I think he would probably even say, don't play like me. That was pretty unique, but I'm curious how he is as a coach.
I mean, every goalie, as you know, has a different type of style, and he doesn't try to change your style. He doesn't try to make us all play the same. I mean, we have 3 goalies on the UVA on our roster, David, Miles, and myself, and all 3 of us play very differently. But there's also some aspects that are kind of non-negotiables, I would say, where we all kind of do the same type of thing. But Coach Turner, each one of us is very individually coached. It's not like all 3 of us have to do the same exact thing. He's very open-minded. Then he also likes our input, I think, too. Like this works for me. And then David would say it doesn't work for him, and vice versa on the other way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. You're still kind of relatively young in your career, but I'm curious if there was ever a moment where you went through a slump, and what you did to get out of that.
I think the slump part is kind of, I would say it's tough for goalies to honestly go through a slump. I think a lot of it's very mental. A slump is like, it's always that next shot mentality. I would say the hardest part for me was probably my sophomore year in high school, was because I got some national attention, but I still wasn't starting goalie at my high school because we had an Air Force kid in front of me and a great goalie. But like I would wouldn't play in a game, and I'm like, I'm supposed to be one of these top goalies in my class, but I'm not even playing in my high school. And I think it was more of self-pressure that I was putting on myself more than anything. And I think that sometimes when we go through slumps, it's more like you're putting more pressure on yourself than anything else.
Yeah. What did you do in that scenario to kind of relieve that pressure?
I mean, it's just keep working. And then also I was fortunate enough I also played a little bit of defensive midfield that sophomore year, which kept me involved in the game, which was awesome for me. Then I kind of keep working and know that there's a reason. And then also in these practices that year, it was like, since I wasn't playing, try to like my mentality was just play, make the coach have the hardest decision he has to make.
Yeah.
Like if I play well, the other goalie's playing well, that's the best thing for the team.
Yeah.
And make the coach have to make a hard decision like, oh, Jason's playing great, Matt's playing great. Which one am I going to start? That's a great problem for a coach to have. And I think that's great for a goal unit to have because the competition in practice made us better along with making the team better.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah. And I think playing midi or, out in the field benefits your goalie game tremendously. Just, the stick skills, understanding the defense, like knowing how to play. Then when you get back in goal, I mean, it helps you be a field general because you're another coach out there. You already know like the technique and the defensive packages and all that. Would you agree?
Yes, sir. I mean,
Yeah.
like as goalies, sometimes you're like, oh, like why can't they just do this?
Right.
Like I'm in the back of the goal, like I can see everything. Why can't we just take away top side on this lefty? Like that should be super easy. Just drive your right hand. And then when you're out there, you're like, I mean, this guy's going to get topside no matter what. We just have to be ready to go here because this guy's a freak of an athlete, might be one of the best athletes on the field. Like, no matter what, we got to be ready to slide topside down.
Yeah.
So,
love it.
Yeah.
How did the goalie competition work for you guys in the fall? So you graduate, Alex Road graduates. It's kind of the position sort of up for grabs. What was kind of the communication and, how did it kind of play out for you guys?
I mean, it's an open competition. I still think it is an open competition. I mean, Miles Thompson's been pushing me. David Roselle's been pushing me, but I've also been pushing them.
Mm-hmm.
I think the competition that we have in practice, just at all positions, makes us all better. And then also Coach Turner just keeping that competition alive and just pushing all of us to keep getting better individually. And it's going to help the team.
Yeah. It's this interesting dynamic with goalies where like, those guys are probably your best friends, right? But like you're at the same time, you guys are competing for the starting role. How does that dynamic play out? First of all, is that true for you guys? And how does that dynamic play out for you guys?
I would say probably David Roselle has been the most influential guy that I've had here at UVA because he's just been like bringing me through everything on grounds all the time. And I mean, it is a goalie family. Like no one else is seeing the 12-yard step downs that we're seeing. No one else understands how bad, how your calf feels after you get skimmed by a 90-mile-per-hour ball. Like no one else.
That's the worst.
Yeah, the calf is for sure the worst, but like, no one else like really understands kind of the mental side and even honestly the physical side of what it takes to play goalie. So I really would think, and Coach Turner also is included in that. And it's a goalie family. Like we start off each practice probably with it's just kind of 25 minutes with Coach Turner and all three of us. And it's really been like a tight-knit family. But I also think that tight-knit family, like, I mean, I had a sister, like she played 2 varsity sports. Like she pushed me in athletics and I think I pushed her in athletics. I think it just kind of that family style helps with the competition even more. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, but the best goalie is going to play, but then you also know you have that family support behind you.
Love it. Yeah. Love it. Yeah. It's like it's a competition, but it's like also at the same time, you're just all pushing each other to get better. And you know that like at the end of the day, like the best goalie is going to win out, but you also know that by pushing each other to get better, the team's going to get better. Right. So
I mean, the team's going to get better. And then David also had a great, said something to me great at the beginning of the year. And he was, I forget exactly word for word, but he's just like, I just want to win. Like winning the national championship was the coolest thing ever. Yeah. And we all know that Alex Road was the goalie on that team and he was a backup goalie, but he was just like winning's the best thing ever. And that's kind of something that's been kept in my head.
I love it. Well, I never got to win a national championship. I've watched enough and interviewed enough goalies who have to experience the thrill. But you're right. It's so much fun. Like in no other circumstance do you have that opportunity to like be with 30, 40 of your best buds and like working towards this goal. So embrace it, my man, embrace it. And you're lucky. I was going to say, you talked a little bit about the mental game. Such a huge element of being a great goalie. When you give up a goal, what goes through your head?
I mean, it probably depends on what type of goal. If it's a goal I shouldn't let in, I'm a little frustrated. But I read this book over winter break that Coach Turner suggested. I'm forgetting the title right now. But like, give yourself like 5 seconds to be upset with yourself, to be frustrated with yourself. Then you got to pull yourself back together, talk to your defense, what you can do. Then by that time, that whistle blows for that next face off, it's got to be washed. Like that goal's got to be out of your head, and you got to be ready for that next one.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's what mental toughness is all about. Like it's cliche to say like, oh, that next shot mentality. But if you're thinking about that previous shot, or like your teammates can see that you were bothered by that, like, you're not going to be as good going into the game. So you got to flush it. But much easier said than done, right?
Very true. Very true. Yeah.
Very true. Yeah. I watched you play against Team Canada in the Fall Classic there. Well done, my man. You're balling out. Talk to me about playing against a national team.
I mean, playing against Team Canada and Team USA in the fall, I think was a great opportunity for all the men here at UVA. I mean, it gave us that top level talent that we always want to compete against. Playing against Canada was great. I mean, it's a different kind of style of play, a little bit more, like, I don't want to say bowling ball, but they're running through you. It's less of like a finesse game that I would say, or a speed game that you kind of see more nowadays. I mean, just super slick, super talented. All their shots were pretty deceptive. I mean, I've kind of been lucky to see some shots from Payne Cormier, who is a Canadian on our team. So we were somewhat prepared for what they had to come. But then also playing against Team USA was another unreal experience. I mean, I was lucky enough to be able to start that game, but I just remember when they first came out, it was like Tom Schreiber, Rob Pennell, Matt Rambo, Grant Ament, and like Mac O'Keefe were all out there. And I was just like, oh my goodness, like these are the guys you watch on TV. These are the guys that flood my Instagram with highlights. Like,
yeah, now you're making saves against them. I love it. What about like from a goalie standpoint? Are there pros or I guess older college guys that you kind of looked up to and learned some things from in your own goalie game?
We watched some Blaze Rudin film this past fall with Coach Turner, and I think one aspect I want to try to take from his game is just how relaxed he is. Like, we watched some of it, and I think it was Zed Williams. He was inside the 2-point arc, and I mean, any other goal is like Zed Williams might be the best player in the world, and it would be gripping a little harder. And Blaze is just kind of standing straight up, just like ready to go, nice and relaxed. And that was a big aspect I like to take from his game. Also, like watching Coach Galloway or John Galloway play, and his outlet passing and just the way he kind of has this like presence, I think is really cool.
Yeah. Blaze's style is so unique, right? I mean, in the days of like now, like you see all these goalies like in their squat, ready, and and he's just so nonchalant. And then the shot comes and bam, he's on it every single time. It's pretty awesome. He's one of the best in the world, but it's just so unique, such a unique style. And then who else you met? Oh, Galloway. Yeah, Galloway's amazing. Are you would you call yourself like a fiery goalie, kind of like Galloway? Like when you make a save, are you doing gestures, like kind of pumping up the boys, or are you more like even keel?
I would try to stay. I mean, I'm a huge Tom Brady fan, so I want to try to have that kind of Brady mentality where you never too high, never too low. And you kind of just like, I mean, when you're high, you're riding the hots, but when you're low, like, you don't want to get too low. So always just trying to stay more of that like even keel. I mean, sometimes say you make a doorstep stop, you clear that ball. Like, of course, I'm gonna be like, I feel like any goalie should be a little fiery, a little fired up after that. But I mean, I would try to stay a little bit more even keel. But I mean, sometimes the emotions get the best.
Yeah, you got it. I think. I mean, if you make a big save, and you don't like take that opportunity to make like a gesture in very good faith, like you're not like sticking it to the other team or rubbing it in the other team's face, like you are genuinely excited and letting your team know about it. I think that's a great opportunity to fire up the team, and I always recommend goalies take that.
No, I think the team really, like, say you make that big save and then say you don't do that big fiery gesture too often and they see it come out. I think that could be a very big game changer.
Yeah. Love it, man. Love it. So you guys just started spring practice about a week ago. Squad's looking good.
Yes, sir. I think we're just a talented team. Like I said before, offense is unreal with Matt Moore and Connor Schomer, Patrick or Peyton Cormier. And then with the transfer Evans in, another first year, Griffin Schutz, offense is looking really good. And even Jeff Connor. I mean, I could go on and on about our offense. And then I think our defense is going to be really solid this year. We have Kate Sawstead, who's returning. Then another guy that's I don't think talked about enough is Cole Kastner and Ben Ware, 2 second years on the team that I think could be very impactful.
Well, cool, man. I can't wait to watch some college lacrosse starting here pretty soon. It's going to be awesome. I've never been more excited for a season than this upcoming season. We'll be watching. It's going to be a ton of fun. And Virginia going for the three-peat. So good luck to you guys and the boys, and it's going to be an amazing season.
Yeah, so it should be super fun.
Yeah. What about, is there like a specific element of your goalie game that you're working on right now? Or is it just, like you said, trying to get shots, just trying to get more reps, trying to get more athleticism?
I would just probably just keep taking more shots. Yeah, I would say more shots. And then on my turns, probably just trying to be a little quick on the turns, and then just getting the verbiage down of our defense, just like better the communication part. And since I'm playing with a whole new defense this year, I mean, in high school, I was super fortunate enough to basically my defensemen were my best friends at home. The 3 guys who started last year at the Woodlands were all seniors. So I was super close with all of them. So we had our own thing going. Like we knew everything. Like we knew what each word meant to each other. So now it's more just learning Coach Tiffany's verbiage and just keep incorporating that into my game.
Yeah. Awesome. How do you, as a freshman, you're 16, 17, I don't know, how old are you?
19.
How are you so old? How are you so old as a freshman? Did you have another high school year?
No, I turned 19 in October. So that's just a kind of a normal birthday, I would say, for our grade.
Right. Fair enough. All right. You're a 19-year-old kid. Yeah, you're right. I guess I got my ages mixed up. Anyway, the question is, you come in as a young kid, and goalies got to be leaders of the team, or at least like the best goalies are leaders of the team. And yet, it's hard as a freshman. So I'm always interested in hearing how goalies go about being leaders of the team when you're new.
I mean, Coach Turner and myself has talked about this, about just kind of having that presence. And also, I think a big thing about being like that leader as a goalie is taking ownership of when you let a goal in on the shots that are completely my fault. If it's a 17-yard step down and I let that in, I just need, like, I think the upperclassmen on our team have really respected it. Like, I need to make that save. Or in film, we'll be watching it, and I'm just like, that's a shot I need to have. And I think that's been a super big thing. Then also just listening. I think listening to Grayson Saladay, who's the captain for our team, who's a defensive midfielder. Then also Kate Sawstead, and just listening to those 2 captains and just kind of having that presence in goal has been a big factor.
Yeah. Yeah. The ownership piece that you mentioned is very critical. And I even go so far as to, like, if there's some shots or some plays where maybe it wasn't my fault, like maybe it'd be a tough save. Like I would make that save, I don't know, 40% of the time, still take the ownership, right? Like I need to have that one. But like you said, definitely if there's, a 17-yard or outside shot, or the guy's fading away and his hands are tied up and you let that one in, like for sure, we're taking ownership of that. But I think ownership is a huge element. Love it, man. Love it. Any, you mentioned you're a big jump rope guy. Any other like drills or exercises like that you think have really contributed to the success of your game?
I would say jump rope, and kind of a big juggler. Just, I mean, something that you can do super quick, super easy, get those hands going.
Yeah.
Also a big ball guy. I mean, my high school coach, Keith Tindall, always was for probably the first half of this season in high school would just be most of the practice we spent on stick skills. Yeah. So probably a big wall ball guy too.
All right. I love it. What about pregame rituals? You got any pregame rituals we need to know about?
probably just try to do the jump rope juggle. Just try to get the mind right before. I mean, nothing too crazy. I don't have to sleep on the right side of the bed or the left side of the bed. I don't have to do anything like hurt some other people on their superstitions, and try to keep everything just pretty normal. Like try to keep it a normal day.
I love it. I love it, man. Awesome. Well, good luck in the upcoming season. Oh, what are you going with for the stick setup? What's your gear these days?
I would love to tell you what shaft I use, but I know it's a Warrior shaft.
Yeah.
And then I'm probably going to be using the Warrior Nemesis.
Nice.
With whatever, not a big gear guy. Hate to kind of ruin that part, but I mean, I couldn't tell you what shaft I use or what mesh I use. What they kind of give us and rock with it.
All good. You got two. We have people in your camp who are like not a big gear guy, kind of, and then you have people that love to geek out about the gear. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, some people play goalie because they love the gear. So, and do you string your sticks, or you got somebody on the team that does
I do not. I have our coach Jeremy Platt, who's the head of Iron Horse Houston. He's also a Springfield grad that my parents knew. He lives about 50 minutes from me at home. So I had him string up about 6 heads when I was home. So
nice, man. String up a small little army to take back to Virginia.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, cool. Like I said, good luck in this upcoming season. If people want to follow you, get a hold of you, do the Instagram, social media.
Yes, I actually have a new Instagram because my original Instagram got hacked. It's Matthew K Nunes on Instagram, and then Matthew Nunes 11 on Twitter.
Awesome. Well, I'll link up to that when the show comes out. Matt, if you had to leave the goalies out there with a final piece of advice, what would that be?
Just keep working. I mean, no goalie is perfect. I mean, even Blaze, he loves getting goals. But I mean, Blaze is almost as perfect as we can get, but just keep working, keep taking shots from the older guys.
Love it, man. Matt, thank you so much.
Thank you.